Welcome to the Brain Dump, where we study the psychology of success. Join us as we probe the habits, rituals, and routines of top-performing artists, entrepreneurs, authors, athletes, and more to uncover the timeless principles we can all use to take our lives to the next level. Are you ready to plunge the grunge that's been gunking up your mind's eye? Great, then let's get to it.
And welcome to the Brain Dump. I am your host, Anthony Vicino, joined as always by my co-host, Austin Linney. And this is the podcast where we are going to unpack your brain. Or at least we're going to try. So thanks for joining us. This is episode number 2. If you haven't already, you're wondering what is this podcast all about, go back and check out episode number 1. Today, we're going to talk about who the heck are we? Who's Austin? Who's Anthony? Why should you even be listening to us? Maybe there's not actually a good reason to be listening to us. Maybe you just like the timbre of Austin's voice. I do personally. But who are these guys? So Austin, who is Austin at your core? I know that's such a big question. Who are you?
It's good. It's all right. I'm a pontificator, so we'll be all right. You know, guys, for me, I grew up in a family that my dad was a doctor. I was pretty, as I got older, we started making more money. He had his own business, and I wasn't loving school. I was very smart. I have a recall memory, a photographic memory, but it wasn't really my bag. And when I was 17 years old, a friend's dad tapped me on the shoulder. I was at their house, and he said, "Hey, you're a different cat. Here's Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think you'll get some value out of it." And I ate up that book and kind of put that idea in my head. But when I was 17, my parents got divorced, and I moved out to the country, out to East Texas, and my whole life changed. I went from a very fancy neighborhood on a country club to the country, and everybody was wearing camo and hunting ducks. I didn't know where the hell I was. And I got in the restaurant business at 18. And if you're not familiar with the restaurant business at those times, it was very alcohol charged, drug charged. And I got introduced to cocaine and then introduced to methamphetamines. And for a while was addicted to meth and kind of messed up my life in a lot of wrong decisions and was homeless briefly and kind of kicked the hard drugs and then moved to Austin, Texas, and proceeded to work in the restaurant business, wine sales, liquor sales for 15 years, and was a functioning alcoholic for 20 years. And just in a 13-year marriage that didn't serve me. So all in this span of the last 2 years, I've got divorced, and I've been sober for 2 years as this was recording like 2 days ago. And I've lost like 65 pounds and I'm a mindset coach and an Airbnb investor and a real estate investor. So, my trials and tribulations are very well documented. If you want to go check out my podcast, I'm very open with my struggles through my life. And, a lot of what I had to deal with was my own version of who I thought I was and the bullshit stories and lies I told myself that I thought I was or thought I wasn't. And so by peeling back those layers of who I was, I've got down to a core fulfillment of the things that meet, my standards for my life. And I'm able to help other people who have been in recovery and other people in mindset coaching. And it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
One of the things I appreciate about you, Austin, is that, man, you've lived a crazy life. You've had some ups, you've had some downs, and you're just so much more transparent about it than every other person I've ever met. You wear not just the wins, but you wear the losses, and you wear the losses more proudly, I think, than you even do the wins. And I think that's so refreshing and interesting because we're all struggling. We're all struggling with this narrative that we have within ourselves of like, who am I? Is this all I could be? And you really open the door for people just to step through and say like, hey, it's okay. This is a safe place to be yourself and recognize like we all win, we all fail. And I wonder though, like, how did you get to that place personally? Like, have you always been pretty open and transparent, or was this like a transformation that happened later in life?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of worn my my emotions on my sleeve. It's kind of who I am. But I realized through 20 years of blaming myself for my parents' divorce and holding myself hostage in my own mess, that the reason that I was still dealing with my shit is because I kept my struggles in my closet. And when you hide them in the dark and you don't allow them to have life, they hold control over you. And so what I realized is when I started opening up and when I started being and telling people where I was coming from and feeling more comfortable about bringing it up, I started feeling lighter myself. And then I realized that when I got sober, this is really what happened to me. Really odd, because in my 20s, I had a personality that was, I classify as a pecker. So I would tell people like, you should do this, you should do this. Like, I don't understand why your life's not this way. And so I stopped doing that. And when I got sober, I didn't tell anybody. And like 4 months in, I had an old friend that I used to work with in the music business text me, and he said, "Hey, I'm having a baby in a month, and I haven't had a drink in 3 months because of you. I'm sober because of you." And I was like, "I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, I haven't talked to you." And he said, "Well, I realized because I saw you on Instagram, if your retarded ass could do it, then I know I could." And so what I realized in that moment is in order to inspire people, you lead from the front and you lead by example. And so my question to you is, if I can meet you within 2 seconds and tell you, drug addict, divorce, laid off, alcoholic, but I'm sober now, if I can say that in the first minute, I've dropped down your concerns of trying to hide something from me. And people seem to have there's a warmth about me. But what they tell me all the time, my coaching clients and people I meet, there's no judgment from me whatsoever. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own life. We've been through some crazy stuff. And you have to understand that your judgment of somebody else's, you need to be very careful, because I ask you very importantly, how are you judging yourself? Because if your personal standards are not, everybody has a great opinion about everybody else, but what are our personal standards? And I was living below my personal standards for many, many, many years. And so I'm so happy to be available to lift somebody up and save them. People ask me all the time, like, "Man, sometimes you sound angry on your podcast." Like, and they're like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "I'm talking to my 17-year-old self. I am telling him and giving him the advice that I wish I would have had when I was 17 and 18. And maybe I wouldn't have had to gone through everything I went through. But ultimately, what I understand is the universe chose me necessary and deemed me worthy to go through all that pain. And so now I can use what I went through to help other people." And call me weird, call me very weird. The moment I decided to get separated from my wife, my first thought in my head was, man, I'm really going to be able to help people out with this that I'm living right now. And so my thing is to always serve. And that's just kind of where this like vulnerable, and then you start sharing it on a platform of a podcast and people are digging it. And you're like, oh shit.
Oh, that's pretty rad.
Like yeah. So then that's kind of opened the door to like, just go with it,
Yeah, this reminds me, we are our harshest critic inside our own brain. We hold people in higher regards than we hold ourselves, and that gets into a lot of difficulty. And we go on a lot of podcasts. We have a lot of conversations, and one of the questions a lot of people like to ask us in our industry of real estate investing, where we're doing pretty well in life from a financial standpoint, is one of the questions people ask is, what's your favorite way of giving back? Like, how do you contribute? And for me, I don't like talking about like the actual whatever things that I'm doing. I think the most important thing that any of us can do, the best gift any of us can give, is giving permission for other people to be themselves. And I think the way that you do that is by first taking care of yourself, making sure that you're on solid footing so that when you reach into the well to help pull your friend out, that you're not getting pulled into. That's step one. And then step two is actually just giving people the vision of saying, like, this is what it looks like to strive and achieve and fail. And because failure is such a large part of achieving. And I think a lot of times we gloss over that part. And I think a lot of us then suffer in silence because we assume we're the only ones that are sucking. And I think the best gift that you can give, the best way you can give back, is what you're doing, I think, in your life, Austin, where you come in and from the first 2 minutes, you're like, bam, 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 bam. Here's my shit. Your shit is okay. And it's like, oh man, all right, I'm going to be okay in this place. Like, and now we can start growing together because we're no longer worried about like presenting our best selves or pretending or like trying to posture.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to share something I've never shared ever with anybody.
Here it comes, people. Episode 2, brain dump, once in a lifetime.
You really made me realize something. One of the problems with my ex-wife was I masked everything that was going on in my life with I was always happy. And it drove her fucking crazy that she felt like she was the only one going through some shit. And now that I look at that, I realize that that is not a strength. It's actually a weakness. And it makes other people feel uncomfortable when you gloss over things that are really affecting your life.
That's absolutely true. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. But what's interesting, and to hit on your other point, and this is very a weird concept, and I'm going to share you in the brain of my coaching and how I look at people. I have this innate ability, I don't know where it comes from, that I can spot people's talent and I can put them in a position to succeed. And so when I'm coaching you, let's say I'm coaching you, Anthony, and you come to me and you say, these are my problems. I am coaching you and speaking to you 6 months from down the road. I've already, my vision of you is fixed, healed, better, married, all the things. And so when I speak to you and I talk to you from that platform, I am pulling you to the best version of yourself. And that's how I view my coaching. I'm not talking to you as the person that came to me broken. I'm talking to you as the fixed version of yourself because I can see it and I vision it out. And I'd love to hear your responses. If there's a belief in what I'm bringing to them that they can almost see and cling on to, I'd be curious to hear what you think about that.
Oh, yeah, I love this. This gets to the idea that leadership is giving people a vision for who they could be and then helping them get there. Because a lot of times we don't have the ability to see, beyond our own horizon. We can only see so far in front of us. And leadership sometimes is just that guy is up on a ladder. So he just has a longer view of the horizon and he can point to it and say, hey, man, you have the capacity to be this. And for a lot of people that have never heard that, because everybody's always more concerned generally about posturing and status and like making sure that they're perceived in the highest light possible, that they're not really worried or concerned with engaging with the other person across from them and saying, I see you as you are and what you could be. And when you get to that point, because it can take a while for relationships to evolve to a place where both sides are receptive to that feedback, because it can be hard and it's scary. And there's a lot of self-sabotage that can come in, I think, when people start to say like, hey, you could be great. And it's like, I've always thought I could be great, but man, that's scary. It's really scary to actually set forth on that. And maybe just being great is not even, it's not even this glorified thing in society. It's just being a little bit better than what you are right now. And for a lot of people, like wherever you're at, like it can be hard to set your sights at the top of the mountain. And sometimes just having somebody come along and say, hey, let's take the next step we can do.
I have an amazing friend and a doctor who coaches women called, her name is Carolyn Colleen. And she told me something on my podcast that forever changed my life. And if you're ever out there, you have a coach or just something to cling on to. She said when she got divorced and she had 3 kids, she didn't love herself enough to change, but she borrowed the love that her daughters had in her and long enough for her to believe in herself. Sometimes you have to cling on to somebody else's belief in you. And me as a coach, I am that person for my coaching clients. And they lean on my belief and my energy long enough for them to pick themselves back up to believe it in themselves.
Yeah, that's powerful. I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, we talked about me. Let's talk about, he might be the James Bond of investing. We don't even know. He's got so many facets. He's very slippery. So what about you, my brother? Yeah.
I think, there's so many angles you could talk from when you're talking about like your personal story and like where you come from and trying to make it relevant. For me, I want to take this tact. It's that I have been failing my way to success my entire life. And it started when I was 13 years old. And I had just won the South Dakota State Chess Championship. I was at the height of my chess career at that point. It wasn't the biggest tournament I'd ever won. It wasn't the hardest competition I'd ever faced or anything. But what happened after the tournament was a formative experience that stayed with me, and I've thought about pretty much every single day of my life since then. So to tell that story, I got to rewind just a little bit. My dad and my mom got divorced a year before that. And my dad was an Army guy, and he was traveling the world, and we were living from base to base to base, and I didn't get to see him a lot. So when he was home, in the same way that every kid, every boy looks up to their dad and thinks he's a superhero, I did that. And then when they got divorced, he moved to Minneapolis, and I was still living in Sioux Falls at that point. And for people who aren't familiar with Midwest topography, that's a 4-hour drive. So it wasn't like I was getting to see my dad every day anymore. Well, my dad had custody of me and my sister every weekend, and he would make that drive every single weekend, come and hang out with us. But he wasn't like this emotional, super gushy guy. He'd just show up, we'd hang out, and he'd leave. And so it was like this weird thing for a long time where I didn't realize like the sacrifice he was making to come and hang out with me every weekend. Because when he was there, it didn't really seem like he was all that emotionally present. So I tell that story because the day of the South Dakota State Chess Tournament, he had custody of me and my sister, and he drops me off at the tournament. I assumed that he was going to come in with me, but he didn't. He drops me off and he says, "We'll be back when it's over to pick you up." And that was it. Like, I was just all of a sudden alone. And that's okay, because I didn't need anybody there for emotional support, whatever. Like, I was going to go there to do the job that needed to get done. And so I went in there and won the tournament. And he comes and picks me up at the end. And I get in the car. I got this big trophy that's the size of me. I put it in the back seat, and I get in. And he says, "How did you do?" And I said, "I won." And his response has stuck with me every step of my life ever since. It was, "Good. You were supposed to." It wasn't "Congratulations. Great. I knew you could do it." It wasn't any of that. It was, "Good. You were supposed to." And that it did two things to me simultaneously at that point. It put a chip on my shoulder, and it also set the expectation in my life that no matter what I would do from that moment forward, whether I went on and became a professional snowboarder, professional rock climber, I started writing science fiction and fantasy novels, published 12 of those, became, award-winning author, or I built, 3 businesses from the ground up to over $1 million in less than a year. Like, it didn't matter what I did anymore, because it was always, you were supposed to. And when you are supposed to win, you no longer enjoy the act of the process or the winning or any of that stuff. Now, I tell you all that because it took me until I was about 30 years old to finally understand what he was asking that day and what he meant when he said, "Good, you were supposed to." And when I figured it out, it changed everything, because before that I was achieving things, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled by those things. And after that, I now had the recipe for coupling achievement and fulfillment. And the last 7 years of my life have been really good as a result. And so here's what I realized. My dad knew that I won that day. He wasn't asking that question. He could look in the back. He could see the trophy. He knew I won. When he said, "How did you do?" I misinterpreted it. I said, "I won." That's not what he was asking. What he was asking was, how did I do relative to what I could do? So when he said, "Good, you were supposed to win," he was talking from fact. Like, I was the favorite. I was supposed to win. That wasn't the question. The question was, how did I perform? Did I play well? And this all clicked in my head one day when I was watching Star Trek. And there's a scene where Data, who is like this human cyborg, he has played this game and he's lost. And Jean-Luc Picard comes in, and Data's like really upset. He can't figure this out. He's like, "I played perfectly. Why did I lose?" And Jean-Luc Picard says, "You can do everything right and still lose. That's not weakness. That's life." And that was the moment in my life where I started to look at it and realize, okay, this isn't about the outcome, because you can play your best and still lose, and you can play poorly and win. It doesn't matter, right? So the pleasure and the fulfillment has to come from the process. And that's when it all started changing, because no longer was it about winning that tournament or building that business. Now it was about, okay, what's the process, the practice? Can I find enjoyment and fulfillment in the day-to-day grind? And once I started doing that, life started getting good. And as a result, I started building businesses that were more fun, because now they have impact. It's not just about doing the thing because I'm supposed to be doing the thing. And that's how I've gotten to where I am now, like a lifelong student of the mind and psychology, because a lot of that, honestly, was trying to, for so long, unpack and find meaning in that conversation that, like, I could see had just set me on this trajectory. And it was in rephrasing that pivotal moment. For so long, it was just something that I had taken as being like this real big negative, and I turned it into a strength. And ever since then, it's been very good.
Wow. There was a lot there. So the question that you have to ask yourself, sitting from this vantage point and unpacking that whole story, is there any aspect of who you are and who you stand as you talk today that would change the trajectory that conversation did for your life? Or is there a meaning behind the journey to get to where we are today?
I think you can't change anything without changing everything, right? If you, for you, like, would you go back and undo like your meth addiction or your drinking or like your marriage? Like, would you go and undo those things? Because then you got, if you answer yes, then you have to be okay with the possibility that you would not be you now, and that you would in fact be a much different person. And you might not like that person as much as you like this person.
Boom. I mean, that's everything, right? Because, but here's the thing, when I look at the vein, if there's a vein in your story and my story, where I see the victory or the fulfillment shift in the views that we look at our life, is because that both me, you and I, to an extent, have made peace with the journey and saw the value of said journey, instead of, walk back to the victim role and this happened to me, this should have happened this way, because everything is happening for us, not to us, right? I think that's where I see where you can get above your skis and really create that momentum that me and you are both on, because we see the outcome of the journey.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing. Let's think about this. You asked a question, would you go back and change it? Or like, if you could, and like, I kind of pose that back at you, but let's think about this for a second. Let's say you did want to go back and change your life because you don't like who you are right now, right? Like, for whatever reason, you're like, fuck, the alternative can't be any worse than this. Like, let's go back in there and change that because surely I'd be a better person. Okay, fine. You can't do that because, sorry, time doesn't work that way. Can't go back. Can only go forward. But what you can do is you can start making changes now, so that tomorrow you're the different person than you were today. And the day after that, you were a different person than the day before. Right. And so you do have the ability to start changing. If you don't like who you are right now, don't look to the past and say, I wish I could change that. Look to the future and say, what am I going to do different?
Well, it's what my big thing, my rail against, because I went through 15 therapists. The difference between a coach and a therapist is the coach points out everything that's right with you and pushes forward, and the therapist wants you to keep looking back. And you can't change the fucking past, guys. I can't go back and talk about what I've never talked about, how I drove that car one night and I didn't die and I should have fucking died. And I woke up that morning and thought, man, that was really stupid. And yet I still kept drinking. I can't change that. But I can look back on it now and know that there's people in my life that didn't make it out. And I did. And so I'm so goddamn thankful that I'm healthy and happy, that I can go save other people. And here's the scary thing. You know what they say about me? You know why they say they love me? It might be my red beard. I don't know what it is. They said that we know that whether it's in Antarctica on a fucking rhino in, 9 billion fireballs, Austin is going to stand in the fire with me and pull me the fuck out of my misery. Here's the kicker, if you're willing to fight for yourself. I cannot fight for you. I'm only one person, but if you want to fight with me, I am here to save you. But you have to stop being a victim, and you have to understand that everything is happening to you for a reason, and the motherfucking universe is undefeated. And the more that you fight it and force it, the more that you will get pain and misery, and understand that everything is a gift, and we have to see it from that vantage point, because I am willing to offer up my services and help and introduce you to people. But there needs to be an element of, like, I want to fight for myself.
This reminds me, we were talking the other day about Coach Burt, right? And his phrase, I can't help you until you commit, but once you do, I won't let you fail. Right? It's like some powerful stuff right there.
Yeah. That's the type of line that when you hear it, it feels like it's a 30-pound weight on your chest because it makes everything seem right in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you till you commit, but once you commit, I won't let you fail. Like the beauty in that simple 7 words or 8 words or whatever is so powerful on so many levels because that man studies words. Like he literally studies words. And so we have to ask ourselves, like, what statement or what human or what love or what belief can we hang on to that we have to believe inside of us that there's better? We have to believe that. Like, we have to. Like, it's not, when you start believing it, whether you borrow it or it's yours, you can start changing. And that's all we're talking about here, guys.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe the best place that we can wrap this up. But before we do, we got to give you guys at home something tactical. And that is this. I want you to take that idea. I can't help you until you commit. But once you do, I won't let you fail. Ask yourself, sit down this week and ask yourself, what is it that I'm committing to? Because one way or the other, you're committing to something, whether that's committing to a better life or committing to staying where you're at or getting worse, like whatever. Like, you're committing to something, whether consciously or subconsciously. Let's drag that out into the light, because as Austin pointed out, like, skeletons in the dark have all the power, but once they're in the light, you recognize them for what they are. You know, they're just little bony things. They don't have any muscles. They don't have any sinew. They can't hurt you. But once they're in the closet, it's still very, very scary. So let's bring them out. Let's figure out, what is that thing that you're committing to? Write it down, send it over to us, go over, leave us a review, let us know, share this with somebody who could be impacted by it, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us here at the Brain Dump. Now, before you go, it's important to solidify what you've learned here today by taking action. If all you do is listen, then you're only going to retain a small amount of the information you consumed here today. So take a quick moment to really lock in any key insights, tidbits, or pieces of wisdom that you want to carry with you into the future. You can do this by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review with your top 3 takeaways from this episode. If you've already left a review, first, thank you so much. Second, it's time to start a brain dump journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a slip of paper will do, where you can record a couple quick thoughts from each episode. Science shows this is one of the best ways to ensure long-term retention of new information. And finally, if you've got a brother, a sister, a coworker, or a best friend that you think would benefit from this episode, do them and us a favor and share with them this episode. Your support, as always, means the world to us.